Hi, I'm Lois Mkize, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Most of us will agree that confidence is key when it comes to achieving our goals in life. We also know that when things appear not to be going our way, we experience a depletion of self-confidence. We may feel dejected and have to work through some challenging emotions to get back to confidence. There is a general belief that even when things are not going so great, we should fake it till we make it. However, Dr. John Demartini, world-renowned human behavior expert, says that a facade of bravado will always be doomed to fail. To discuss, he joins me in studio. Great to have you always in discussion with us in studio.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm sure even you experience low confidence in your life at some point. What impacts on natural confidence, John?
Whenever we have objectives, goals, intentions that we haven't thought through clearly with foresight, and we have some degree of either an imbalanced objective or something that's not really congruent with what we're really committed to, or we haven't thought through in detailed strategies on how to achieve it, we have a natural inclination to have a phobia, a little bit of a fear, and a depletion of self-confidence to let us know that we have refinement of our objective. Mm-hmm. So instead of us trying to fake it, it's wiser to use the feedback to look at how we're refining our objective to make sure the goal is clear, concise, with strategies.
Please expand on that a little bit.
Well, we have a natural tendency, if we set a goal, every goal is going to have things that will be challenging to achieve it, mm-hmm. and things that will be exhilarating as we go do it. If we have a fantasy, we have a fantasy of seeing only the positive side, and we're not preparing ourselves for the challenges that's actually faced.
I think most of us are guilty of that, buying into that fantasy.
Every fantasy, every philia creates a phobia, and that's our nightmare that we have. And that's, whenever we create up a fantasy, we exhilarate, we tend to get into this kind of euphoric state, a dopamine rush, mm-hmm. and then what we do is we get blinded to the downsides, and we end up having this anxiety or self-depreciation. The purpose of our executive center for planning is designed to make sure that we have a balanced objective and to mitigate the challenges and the risks that we face, mm-hmm. and to have foresight to think them through, anticipate them, plan what to do in each of those cases. And if they're all planned out and we have a nice balanced objective and it's really, truly meaningful to us, we don't have the anxiety. So we don't need to fake it. We just need to use it as a feedback to let us know that we have some refinement in our goal, nothing more. And if we refine our goal and get it strategically planned, our anxieties go down, our depreciation goes down, our energies go back up again.
Suppose we should just be in the moment, just kind of let go of, having expectations that may not actually pan out.
Well, if the purpose of strategic planning is to make sure we're not setting a fantasy expectations, to make sure they're real expectations. Real expectations don't create self-depreciation because they have real strategies with real outcomes and get real goals. It's when we set up these alternative fantasies, these unrealistic expectations, we're designed to have that part of us come alive to let us know we've got some unrealistic aspect in there. And so we can fake it. We can go through and try to pretend like it's not there and feel our way through and eventually get through and navigate through. It's not like that's a terrible thing. It's just that it's just offering us feedback for future goals to make sure that we think them through. Because foresight is more empowering than having to go through trial and error and hindsight.
The conditioning, John, is that if we fake it, we might just believe it.
Well, to take the action step and fake it, I think is unnecessary. I'd rather just go in there and refine the objective, keep taking actions towards the objective. That's not really faking it, that's just pursuing towards your goal and not giving up on it.
And that's just being positive, perhaps.
That's being consistent in taking actions. Yeah. Actions cure the fears. Because a lot of times, fear is an assumption that there's going to be some drawback that we're facing in the future, and we're anxious about that. And that makes us go, oh my God, we're frightened about what's going to happen. But in actuality, if we do our foresight planning, we don't have that anxiety.
Sure.
And I'd rather play with a strategic planning is much wiser than having to react. Mm-hmm. And yes, you can fake it. I'm not saying you can't do that, but it's wiser to foreplan instead of having to go through trial and error. And I'd rather not fake it. I'd rather just go through and find out what that feeling is trying to guide me to do. It's trying to refine my goal. The second the goal is clear and refined and we have a strategy for it, that sensation goes away and we just take action again.
That sounds awesome. John, what is the correlation, I wonder, between confidence and personal power?
Well, if a person, whenever you're setting a goal that is really truly aligned with what's valuable to you and not trying to be somebody you're not, that's the fake. That's when you have the greatest confidence. If you look very carefully and ask yourself, what is it you do every day that nobody has to remind you to do, that you're just spontaneously love doing, and you're doing it because you just love doing it? That area you don't ever have doubt in, you have confidence in. And that's where you specialize. That's where you have your competitive advantage in the world. That's where you have your core competency. When you set goals that are aligned to that, you don't have anxieties and fears about you being that way. I can find that in everybody I work with one-on-one when I'm consulting with them. I can find out what that is and know that if they start with what they know and let them grow from what they know into those that are unknown, they do better than if they just go out and try to be somebody they're not and try to do something that's outside their core competence, because then they're automatically going to have that anxiety and that self-depreciation to let them know that they're trying to get outside what's really important to them.
Well, I've learned from experience that my personal power comes with preparation for what I need to do. I mean, if I'm doing a live broadcast,
not only just the action,
I've got to prepare on those topics. I've got to know what's going on in the world. And that's when I understand the topic, I feel empowered. And that's when the natural confidence comes through.
Well, that's where foresight comes in.
Yeah.
Planning, luck is preparation meeting opportunity. If you've prepared and you have foresighted what you're going to do and you've run it in your mind and you really know your material, you don't have the anxiety. But if you're going in there and you're going after something that's not really core in your knowledge, you're going to set yourself up for an anxiety. You're going to set up with self-depreciation. Self-depreciation is not a terrible thing. It's a feedback to let you know you're getting outside your core competence. It's letting you know that you haven't planned. It's anytime you get out of the executive center in the brain, you're going to have that anxiety. That's a normal process. And it's trying to get you back into be where your core competence is, where your strength is, where your truth is.
Sure. What I've learned over the years in interviewing you is that you are a great storyteller. So share with us a moment in your life where you experienced low confidence and tell us how you worked past that.
Where I was not having the confidence and then had to come up with the confidence?
Yes.
Yeah. The most significant one, I was 27 years old. I was asked to speak at a presentation at the Hyatt Hotel in Houston, Texas. And it was to 75 oil executives, the largest companies of oil in Houston. And they were 75-year-olds. They're all retired executives of the oil company. And my topic was success.
Wow. I can understand that feeling of intimidation.
and I was on this little bitty stage and I saw the audience and they were all in their white-haired gentlemen. And I was going to talk, and I just opened up my practice. It was like 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk to them who've run multi-billion-dollar corporations about success. And I thought it was kind of irony.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was anxious. And I was outside my core competence, without a doubt. I didn't have any idea what I was about to face. And so I was in that anxiety mode. But something popped in my head that just saved the day. I realized that majority of people have a fear of speaking, fear of public speaking. Not because of speaking, because everybody can speak, but they have the fear of public speaking in front of peers. So when I got there, I thought, I just keyed in my mind, I said, I started the presentation where as long as you're green, you're growing, as soon as you're ripe and you're rot. That means if you're not growing and you're not challenging yourself, you're decaying. I said, I'm sure, I walked in, I started with that statement, I turned to one of the executives and I said, I'm certain that you as a leader would not let yourself decay. So what is your biggest challenge you're facing now? And please share your greatest challenge right now and the biggest fear that you're facing right now.
Wow, nice way to handle it.
I turned my fear onto them. And now this guy was going, oh my God, I have to stand up in front of my peers and tell everybody my fear right now. And everybody else is anxious, worrying about whether I'm going to go to them next. I turned my fear completely into them, and it was hilarious. At the end of the presentation, which is about an hour and 15 minutes, I don't think I really ever said anything. I just kept asking questions and put them through their anxieties. I learned right there that
so you took yourself off the hook there.
I took myself off the hook. They thought, wow, what a great speech it was. I never said anything. I just kept asking questions, went around and asked them what their anxieties were and what are they planning on doing and conquering them.
Just turn the camera.
And turned it back on them. But I realized that because I did not have any idea what I was about to face, I was unprepared. I was comparing myself to them instead of comparing my actions to what my primary objective and mission was. And I learned a lot about fears. And if I set goals that are really in my core competence, in things that are really true to me, that I have foresighted and planned and strategized, and I have prepared, I don't have that anxiety, just like you said, because you're prepared.
Yeah, interesting. John, my last question for you, and this is an important one, because in South Africa right now, the unemployment rate is very high, as in other countries, developing countries, especially amongst the youth. And the conditioning again is when you're looking for a job, you need to exude confidence, project a sense of confidence, because you're actually selling your skills to someone, and the natural tendency is to oversell. So give us some advice for the youth and for everybody else about confidence when going into a job interview.
Well, I'm going to say almost the same thing, that if you're going outside your level of core competence, you're less likely to excel because you're going in an area that you don't know anything about. So better to prepare. If you know you're going for a job, I would read every single thing you can get your hands on about that job and about the history of that company and about the people that you're about to be interviewed by and about what their needs are and the challenges and the history. And I would prepare and make sure it's really something inspiring to you. If you're going after something that's not really meaningful and inspiring to you, why? Why are you going to put your energies into something that's not meaningful?
Yeah.
So if you really have a love for something and you're pursuing that, you're going to go farther than if you're just going and trying to get a job. But if you are going to get a job and you can target it into something that's meaningful to you, prepare. I don't know if I have the time for this, but I want to.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
We were interviewing. I was involved in a board of a direct marketing company, and we were hiring a new law firm. And the first lawyer came from this big wig company, and then talked about how great they were and bragged and everything else, and just bravado. And there's a part of us that just was turned off by it. We thought he didn't ask us what our needs are. He was just talking about how great he was. And we were just wanting to get him out of there. The second person came in there, and he literally hand-shook every single person on the board. He knew everyone's name. He knew what their background was, their histories, what their accomplishments were. I don't know how he got this information, because it wasn't internet in those days.
Yeah.
And he knew everything about it. And then he sat down and pulled out his pad, and he says, before I can even consider being of service to you, I need to make sure that I'm the fit. So I need to know what your needs are, what your concerns are. So he greeted and introduced, he established rapport, and then he established needs, and he sat there and asked questions on every possible thing, and every one of our concerns, he just got out those concerns and made what the budgets were. I mean, he just did his homework. And because he knew everybody, because he had gained rapport, and because he established need, and because he then reiterated and confirmed the needs, and then he said, before I can say what I can do for you, because I don't know yet, I want to go back and make sure that I'm not wasting your time, taking up your time, misleading you, or falsely trying to sell you something. I want to make sure that I can deliver the goods right on time, on budget, et cetera. Do you mind if I give myself a little time to make sure that I can deliver what I say? And we said, absolutely. We already knew this was the guy by the way he presented it, because he prepared, because it was in his core competence, because he wanted to see how he could do it within budget, and he was really on the ball. There's never a lack of a job for somebody who really is committed to serving. That's my experience. You really, 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 really dedicated to finding a way of serving somebody, you'll get a job.